The first annual Alumni Modern Languages and Linguistics Alumni Open House. We have a great panel. We have 5 alumni from FSU, and so yeah, let me go ahead and introduce them. We have Dr. Ginevra Adamoli Kalbli, and she is Digital CX Strategy Director at Epsilon Digital and Social Marketing. She earned a master's in Italian literature, a master's in women's studies, and also a PhD in mass communication, all at FSU. So welcome, Ginevra.
Thank you.
We have Dr. Janet Gomez, who is Assistant Dean of the Summer and Special Programs at Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies. She earned her MA in Italian Studies at FSU. She also earned a BA at the University of Florida and a PhD at Johns Hopkins University. So welcome, Janet. We also have Alyssa Nota, who is CEO and President of the University Studies Abroad Consortium, USAC. She earned a BA in Italian at FSU. And then she went on to earn a master's at the University of Virginia and a PhD at Boston College. So welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have Natasha Sutherland, who joined the Florida Department of Agriculture as Deputy Director of Communications under Secretary Nikki Fried. And that was after serving as the Deputy Director of Communications and Legislative Policy and Analyst in the Florida House Democratic Caucus Office of the Minority Leader. And she earned her, she earned a master's in Italian studies and also a BA in Italian and Spanish all at FSU. So welcome, Natasha. And finally, we have Jessica Kraft, who is Administrative and Programming Assistant at the Center for Latin American Studies at University of Pittsburgh. She earned her BA in Spanish at FSU, an MA in Spanish Linguistics at FSU, and is, I already said what you do. So thank you and welcome, Jessica. So thank you all for coming. I thought I would just start by asking you all just to say a few words about where you have ended up, right? Where, we all know that you studied at FSU at some point, and then went on to enter the professional life. So I just thought I'd ask you to maybe describe what you do in your current positions. And then we can talk about how you made kind of the transition from student to professional. So in no particular order, could I ask? Could we start with you, Ginevra?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm the strategy director of digital customer experience at Epsilon. Epsilon is part of Publicis Group, which is the third world biggest advertising agency in the world. And it's actually like French, which is, it's kind of like perfect for a discussion. How did I end up here? And what I do, if you receive emails or if you see any advertising, whether it's on social or email or TV, that's probably me helping clients to lay out a strategy for their business and marketing. Some of the clients we work for are McDonald's, Sephora. If you receive emails from Sephora, that's probably me, being part of that. Panera is another client of ours and so on. I end up here because of my experience and kind of combining both the work that I was doing as a volunteer as well as my education. I have a PhD in communication. I did it on, Facebook and marketing, but related to the slow food movement, which was actually, based on Italian studies as well. So I think, as we speak about how I end up here, it wasn't easy, for sure. I remember applying to over 100 jobs as, after I got my PhD, and that was during the recession as well. And I got a lot of feedback from company like Nike. Why would you even apply? Because you have a PhD, you should be teaching. So it took a lot of efforts and motivation, but once I found someone that understood, I actually ended up in London working for a startup where they gave me the Italian market, and I was doing research for, again, McDonald's, some Italian brands, and I was doing customer research and kind of understanding how the Italian market and customer are consuming and talking about certain topics. So that's where I think the Italian master came in. Of course, I'm originally from Italy, right? So there was not a problem of the Italian language. But it's more than that. It's also understanding the ability of understanding the culture so that when these opportunities come, you can bring in those insights that even Italians don't have, right? Another example too, being part of the Italian and mother language department helped me to understand more cultures. So I had another job that was global, and I had to deal with German teams, UK teams, French team, Indian team. And the dynamics are different because the way you communicate with British people is different from the way you communicate with Spanish. And that really helped me to navigate and be successful. And I end up, being promoted quickly. And I think it was part of, again, being part of this global multicultural department, whether it was, with the Italian department, but also in the communication as well. And I believe also right now there is a lot of emphasis on diversity and inclusion. So I was part of a council for my Frigio company that we set up a council and a committee for diversity and inclusion. And then again, now we know that it's part of every brand. So it's, to me, there are different ways you can bring your skills that not necessarily are like spelled out when you write in like a paper and you don't think about it. But then when you combine them with other skills, in my case, it was communication, PR, analytics, then you're able to actually accelerate your growth within any company. I can say that now I'm the director, work for a big company, and I believe it has been my acceleration in a career has been because of my PhD and my master, for sure. So.
Thank you so much. That's wow. Such great insight, to be sure. Janet, would you like to say a few words about your current position and how you got there?
Sure. So I'm currently the Assistant Dean of Summer and Special Programs, and in particular at Georgetown University. And in particular, I focus on high school programs. Pre-college programs well, it's been a market for a while, but even more so it's growing in the last few years. I manage new program development for high school students, whether that's credit or non-credit. And now online, I'm spearheading a project where we'll offer online high school courses year-round for not for credit, hopefully later on for credit. I manage a team of 4 direct reports and about 5 indirect reports, student assistants, and faculty, and I think it's about over 50 faculty members, in charge of recruiting them, coaching them, training for the pre-college market. In charge of marketing, enrollment management. I also work in tandem with our marketing team. Prior to this position, I worked in marketing for Hopkins, and I'll talk a little bit how I got there. Budgeting, accounting, that's also under my purview, along with student academic affairs and staff management, like I mentioned. So I started at Georgetown about a year ago. The second week on the job, the pandemic hit, and my boss at the time, I signed a contract, was excited to learn everything, and was training, and all of a sudden my boss second week goes, Janet, can we turn these 35 non-credit programs to virtual mode? And I said, yeah, we could. I didn't know what I was getting into, but a little bit. And so we did it. We moved about 30 high school programs that ran from June to August last year. For the first time, Georgetown offered it online. We're doing it this year. We got really great reviews, and it was something that I was very proud of, to be able to come in and have that expertise, have that faculty support, and they were very willing to work with me. I brought in, so how I got there and how I was able to do that was because I've always had a kind of a technology background ever since undergrad. When I was an undergrad at that other school down south, I worked with an instructional designer as a TA, putting courses online with their translation program at the time that is no longer there. I did, and Baliza knows me very well, that I did a lot of technology stuff around, even at FSU. And then in my graduate career, when I went off to, after FSU, I went off to Hopkins to do my PhD in Italian Renaissance literature. And I worked in social media a little bit for the department, kind of started up little projects here and there. And that experience with social media translates to in the market as marketing, like Ginebra was talking about earlier, is translating those skills that you think, oh, it's just social media, it's just a hobby. Well, that turns into digital marketing, and kind of getting into that field. So I went off after FSU, I went off to Hopkins, and I was all very gung-ho about being a professor, and I wanted to, find that tenure track job. And about my third year into my studies, I realized, students were finishing their doctorates and not getting jobs, not even adjunct positions. And these are people not, these are Hopkins graduates, top school, number 9 in the country. In the field of Renaissance Italian literature, they were pretty high up at the time. We had a very large presence at Renaissance Society of America, more than any other graduate, any institution that offered a graduate program in Italian. I knew people who had done sort of editing volumes, and they're still not getting jobs. They had publications, they're still not getting jobs. I had Italian friends of mine who were in the program who they had to go back to Italy because of the visa challenges presented, because they couldn't find a job. So that's another challenge if you're an international student. So my third year, I had an opportunity to teach a course in Italy, both as a faculty director and program manager. So I took a group of students to Italy. I taught there for intersession at Hopkins. There's so there was a break between fall and spring semester for a month, and that you can take optional courses. And one of them was study abroad courses for 3 weeks. And so I did that. And that experience then propelled me to work for the Office of Study Abroad later on in another capacity, which was, after that, I took students to Cuba with a faculty member. And then I did that about 2 more times. The last 2 times I was co-faculty for that Cuba trip. And then I landed working at the Study Abroad office while I was doing my graduate work, working with visiting international students. These are students who are coming to Hopkins for a semester, a year, taking credits and then going back to their institutions. And so that experience, I did that for 2 years while still doing the PhD. I had my advisor say, Janet, you have to just sit and write. And I said, Walter, let me do what I do and I will get everything done, I promise. Don't worry, I finished on time. And the last semester, I told him everything I was doing. He said, I'm not even going to tell you to do nothing anymore, to sit and write, because I know you're going to get it done and you're going to get everything else done. And I'm one of those people that I can't have one thing, or otherwise I won't finish. I need to have 10 other things and then I'll finish all of them. So that's how that I wound up. But that, that experience while doing my graduate, having the foresight to see, okay, students are not getting jobs. I can't think, that I am this eminent scholar in the field. However, I didn't want to compromise. I had to have like what they say, a come to Jesus moment of, what do I like from academic life and can I still do it? And there were two things I still loved. I liked writing, but I didn't want to do it full time. And I liked teaching, and I could still teach part-time. I still did the intercession programs even after I graduated, working full time, and worked on a book ongoing that was published last year. And I'm still a researcher, I'm still a scholar, and I still teach, and I'll be teaching a course this fall at Georgetown. After that, I worked for summer and intercession programs at Hopkins for another 3 years, getting in, working with international students, recruiting them, took me places all over the world, including China, knowing the international market really well. And that goes back to what Ginetta was saying earlier about, being in a cohort of people from different places, from, the French to all different kinds of culture coming together and understanding, having that cultural background. I worked with the Department of State as a partnership with Hopkins, recruiting international students. And then that experience, and I did a lot in marketing. That experience got me to the position I got last year, in which I'm currently an assistant dean at Georgetown now. That's it.
Congratulations. That's a great story. I'm picking up that sometimes this can be a kind of long and a bit winding path to where you all end up in the end. But no, this is great insight. Alyssa, would you like to take a turn and talk about your path?
Sure, thank you very much. Sounded very interesting to hear from both Ginevra and Janet, because somewhat similar paths. So I'll try to summarize quickly. I was at FSU a long time ago, back in the 90s, as an undergraduate, and I studied abroad in Italy with the FSU program there, and that really was a springboard to me for the rest of my career path. I'm now the CEO and president of USAC, which you mentioned, which is a study abroad organization, which is a nonprofit, and it's been around for 40 years. And I've been with the organization now for over 20 years. But I started with USAC as the resident director in Italy. So I was the director of the Torino program there. And then over the 20 years that I was in Italy, I was able to open other programs within Italy and then develop other programs around the world as well. So it was, yes, definitely a long, winding path that got me there too. Because I started to study Italian because I loved Italian and wanted to end up in Italy, and did that through study abroad. Fell in love there, of course, with the culture, as everyone expects, and had a great experience and wanted to stay there, but then had the opportunity to get a master's degree at UVA. And so as much as I wanted to stay in Italy, I knew this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And so I definitely would obviously recommend graduate study, because that absolutely did open doors that would not have been open to me otherwise in my future. And it forced me to teach. As you know, as a graduate student, you're teaching a lot of undergraduate courses, and I never planned to teach. And however, that was such an eye-opening experience. You learn so much about something when you teach it, but also how to manage a classroom, how to deal with students, syllabi, curriculum, all of that that's involved. And then that led me to definitely be able to be hired as an instructor at different universities in the US to teach Italian language and culture. But along the way, I knew I wanted a PhD, and this whole experience made me realize I didn't want a PhD in a language. I wanted something a little wider. And so that to me was a good learning experience. And so that's why I pursued my PhD in education and curriculum and instruction. And along the way was really combining, like Janet said, like all the things that I really love to do, journalism and writing and language and culture. And so I was very fortunate to be able to have that experience all come together for me through study abroad and coming across USAC. And at that time they were hiring for this director position that I mentioned. And so that it really just step by step led me into an international career, all based on Italian to start, but definitely has brought me to other places as well. And so that I stress also, like Ginevra said, how important the international and intercultural skills and knowledge really become the even more important skill, I think, later on. And now that I, as an employer, that's what I'm looking for. Certainly, language skills are unbelievably valuable. However, if I can also find someone who also has larger international skills, that they're adaptable and flexible, and I could send them to Thailand, for example, even if they speak Italian and English, but they're going to be fine in Thailand getting the work done that we need done. That's an added bonus. So that's, I think, an extraordinary thing that students have to think about. If you're studying a language, that's great, but try to also think about how to sell your skills, when you're talking to an employer or a potential employer. How can you, all your intercultural skills and experiences that you have had, convince them and show them how you can add value to that organization or to that company. I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's pleasant to hear that the studying, being in graduate school opens up opportunities, and many times opportunities that maybe you weren't quite expecting. So that's really great to hear. Natasha, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you. So just to start, everything that folks have said before me, I 100% agree with and can identify with. I'm just trying to think of how to add to all of that, because it's been fantastic. With the work that I do at the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, it's a statewide agency. It's over 4,000 employees. So I don't just do communications for Commissioner Nikki Fried, I also do communications for all of the division and office heads underneath the Department of Ag. And so the things that I may write for with regard to press releases, talking points, remarks, and things like that can include our agriculture law enforcement folks, or ag water policy, aquaculture, cabinet affairs having to do with clemency. I might write something to do with energy policy that we're trying to promote at the legislature, or maybe it's the concealed carry weapons licensing that we run at the department, or maybe it's fruit and vegetables, food safety. The list, it goes on and on, along with the interests of Commissioner Fried and some of the political, things that she's trying to do, but more so on the official side of things and how it relates to her duties as Ag Commissioner for the state. So a lot of folks, I think, for the work that I do, it's really important that we, number one, kind of ensure that we communicate what it is we even do, and just kind of make that connection with the state of Florida, because a lot of people just don't realize how involved our agency is in people's everyday lives. And so my job is to make sure that I can communicate that in a way that is digestible, that is in common language, that that people can, when they read about it in the paper, or the one-liner that I write for the commissioner ends up on WCTV in the evenings, is something that people can understand and relate to. And I think that getting a degree in foreign language, and in particular a graduate degree, it helps you to be able to communicate in a way that makes sense, because you're trying to negotiate between one or two languages, three languages in my case, or more. And sometimes, you might be able to find a better way to, I think it's called circumlocution, right? Where you find a way around, you don't know the word, and you're thinking, well, how do I explain that in a way that I can still convey the message without actually recalling that word? Something about that skill, I think, I see a lot of people nodding their heads. Something about that skill I think is incredibly valuable when it comes to communication. And so I pursued Italian and Spanish to begin with because, you know, my background, my mother was from Italy. But Spanish, in high school, I just knew it was a language that needed to be known, you know, with the kids in school speaking Spanish. I knew I just needed to learn it. And so I did that in high school. And then I took that through college because at bottom line, my passion was communicating with people, connecting with people. And it was also the transmission of information. Sometimes I notice with, you know, communication difficulties, whether that's between different languages or different people, different backgrounds, different cultures, sometimes there were gaps in understanding. And I think that I noticed that when you're able to bridge those gaps, you make progress, right? You're able to move forward and do more with that when everybody's on the same page about something. And so initially I thought, I went ahead and got my graduate degree, my first one in foreign language education through the College of Ed at FSU, because I thought, well, teaching, like that's a natural, you know, this is something that I take to, something that I enjoy, imparting knowledge, sharing, connecting, making sure that people get the information that they need, you know, to benefit from that and do something with it, whether that's, you know, they want to travel and so they know some basic Spanish or something beyond that. And then, you know, life happened. And I moved overseas and I was able to get a job where I was counseling veterans when my husband was in the military at the time. And it was sort of a similar thing I was doing there as a transition assistance counselor, helping, you know, military service members leave the military and figure out what they were going to do next. And so that entailed figuring out education, their benefits, finding a job. I mean, just life stuff and just making sure that I could break down this insane amount of information in a way that's digestible and communicate that effectively to them so that they can use that to their benefit to move on to the next phase of their life. Came back to the States. I ended up getting my master's in Italian studies, and that was an excellent opportunity to continue. Yay, I see you there, Sylvia. That was an excellent opportunity to continue with the teaching experience. And another skill that I thought was incredibly valuable was all the writing that we do as graduate students. I see you nodding your heads. All that writing, all that reading, all that editing, whatever, it doesn't matter what language, just the fact that you're doing all of that and you're very well practiced in that. I think that in the work that I do, that has been tremendous because I am on very tight deadlines in the work that I do. It's something that, you know, at a moment's notice, I may have to draft a statement about something that just happened in the news that hopefully I should already know is coming, because that's also my job, and be able to do it in a way that's fast, eloquent, direct, concise, in maybe an hour or two, and not really know right away that I'm going to have to write about it until I do. And then I needed to do it yesterday. So it's something that I think, though a bachelor's degree is wonderful and it's a great first step, graduate education, I think, really prepares you for that. My initial goals before going into this line of work that I'm doing was to do the PhD. I thought, gosh, it would be amazing to go into academia, become a professor. A lot of the people that I respect and admire are in that field. But, you know, life happens. So another detour. And I got a job at the legislature initially as an OPS, so as a temporary employee. And it was during the 2017 legislative session as an editor. So because of my graduate study, that was attractive to be an editor for some of the publications at the Florida House of Representatives. And so they took me on, and also it was a temp job. So it was my ability to be open-minded to other opportunities that may not necessarily align with what I've done traditionally. So I took that position. And I think one thing that I would want to kind of emphasize with students is it's incredibly important to network. It's incredibly important to connect with people, to talk to people all the time, because you just don't know where that may lead. And in my case, I happened to be at a lunch at the Capitol on my lunch break, and I was sitting at a table by myself, just enjoying my meal, and there were some very lovely folks sitting next to me. And it just so happens that was the minority leader at the time at the Florida House. And I didn't really realize who I was talking to. And we were talking about, the teaching that I had done, the work that I was interested in, and just life stuff. And she took an interest in me, and the fact that I think the most attractive thing for her was being multilingual, having a graduate degree, having teaching experience. And so she offered me a position in her office to serve at the time, I think we had 43 Democratic members for the state at the Florida House, and asked me if I wanted to be a legislative policy analyst. Again, the writing skills, the research skills, the reading skills, the ability to do that. And I got to be honest, last minute writing of papers, it helps me immensely, that experience. Not to mess anything up for anyone, but that doing that last minute writing, like that skill is just something that's been paying off ever since. But if you can prepare, all the better, of course. But having all that experience was easy to apply to sitting in front of a group of legislators and going, hey, last night I read this bill. It's good, bad, neutral, otherwise. Hey, I read this amendment, and then being able to type up, a very brief paragraph or so that explains just the key, the salient details of the bill, so that if you have a member that read the whole thing, talked to all the lobbyists about it, knew everything about it, could still get something out of it. And you also have the legislator that maybe didn't have time to read the bill at all, can look at your summary and know how to vote on it in committee the next day. So that ability to translate information is just incredibly important. And so moving from policy analysis, which I'm going to connect it to FDAX here in a minute with Department of Ag. So one of my policy areas was actually agriculture and the environment. And so for a couple of years, I was the analyst in the office that would read the bills, know what the policy changes are, the proposed changes, which representative or senator did what with what. Kind of having that sort of history and background was really helpful, so that eventually I was then offered, the position at Department of Agriculture, because I already had a little bit of that background knowledge. But I'm trying to think, I'm looking at my notes here to see if I don't want to miss anything. I think overall for me, it's important to stay in touch with yourself and really what you enjoy doing, and knowing what the core of that is, I think. And for me, that transmission of information, that communication kind of underlies all of the things that I've done, as varied as they might have been. That is the common thread, if that makes sense. So yeah, anyway, I look forward to questions after this.
Thank you so much. And what a great story. Did I understand correctly that you just kind of happened to meet someone and that's how you?
Yeah. So like I said, when I kind of happened to be at the right place at the right time. When it came to my initial position with the Florida House, I was sitting with a bunch of representatives, and one of them was now Senator Janet Cruz, who was the minority leader at the time. And so we met, talked. She learned about, like I said, the teaching experience and the languages. Those were the two big things, because she saw how those skills could transfer into being a policy analyst. And I interviewed, and they offered me the job. And so that was my transition into politics, and subsequently communications for that same office. And then moving on now to the Department of Agriculture, working for Commissioner Freed.
That's so great. It's so people skills, networking, but also, graduate students out there, you can thank us for assigning so many, so many pages for your final papers, and yeah, waiting until the last minute to write it, and then you're prepared for the real life, right? So that's great. Jessica, would you like to say a few words about how you got to where you are?
Yeah, I also took a winding path. I left FSU to pursue a PhD at the University of Pittsburgh, actually in the Linguistics department. I was teaching in the Department of Hispanic Languages and Literatures. But life happened, as Natasha says, and I ended up leaving after 2 years. I wasn't ready to leave Pittsburgh, so I was searching for jobs in the area. And some of the skills that I took away from grad school that really, I guess, propelled me into that first job was as a data analyst. I was a subcontractor at Google Pittsburgh. So I was working with the Google Assistant, like the voice AI, and working with Google Shopping. So my skills from grad school really focus on research, organization, evaluation and categorization, data cleaning. There was some language related work, so I was hired as a bilingual Spanish data analyst. And then I guess after about a year or so, I was asked to start leading training sort of new hires. So the team, we had a counterpart team in India, and I was asked to start training them and working with them. Their performance was very low when I started working with them, in the 40, 50, 60% range. And so my skills as a teacher, the pedagogy experience that I had at FSU, being able to break down complex information or complex instructions into bite-sized pieces and that other people can internalize, and making it really into a process that they can follow. That has been super helpful. And also being able to really connect with people using your interpersonal and your intercultural skills. So not only being able to break down that information, but also to present it in a culturally sensitive way. Those two things have been invaluable. And I want to echo what everyone else has said. Being at FSU in the Modern Languages and Linguistics department, I mean, you came across so many different people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, different languages, and you're all sharing this one space. So you're learning to negotiate that, and you're learning what are your boundaries and what are other people's boundaries, and those intercultural skills really help you negotiate that in an effective way. Well, actually, so through training, so working on the training with the team in India, I realized, the data analysis part of the job is not really what fulfills me. So working with people, working with pedagogy and training, that really was what fulfilled me. And I also taught part-time sometimes in the Department of Hispanic Languages and Literatures at Pitt. When I was a grad student there, I had a chance to lead 2 trips to Cuba with their study abroad program. So I knew that I loved working with students. I knew that I loved study abroad. I knew I loved pedagogy and international experiences. So I decided to pivot and do a career change, which for anyone who does do that as a graduate student, and if you get into a job that you think you really, I'm good at data analysis and I want to go try that out, and then you realize, it's not really that great. What I wish I would have done before is I wish I would have sat down and really thought about what my values were and what I really loved. It was so insightful that Janet mentioned that she thought about, okay, what is it I really love about academia? So pick those things out when you're entering the job market. But yeah, so I realized, what were my values? What were the things that I appreciated and I wanted to really go back to? And so I started applying for jobs in area studies, and a position opened up the Center for Latin American Studies at the University of Pittsburgh. Right now, we're a very small team. There's only 5 of us. And so it's a lot of work, it's stressful, but I am so much more fulfilled, and I get to work with students. I get to work with international scholars. I get to organize events with them. Hopefully when the pandemic passes, I'll get to work with study abroad again. And yeah, I do a lot of like the background, the website stuff. So I want to echo what other people have said, that having the technical skills, like learning Pratt with Dr. Gonzalez, being able to have some sort of technical software in front of you and say, oh, what is this? I don't know what it is, but then trying to like teaching yourself and figuring things out. So in this job, like I've learned Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere Pro. I've taught myself, what else? Oh, Drupal for website content management. So having those skills in grad school where you have to teach yourself, yeah, the skill teach yourself is a big one. Yeah, definitely. Like being able to understand what's going on, even if you just like understand little pieces and then you're just willing to try this and that, and having that curiosity or that openness is also really important and really helpful with technology. Yeah, and so if you have any technology skills, like definitely, yes, LinkedIn Learning, I've been using that with PITS, their program, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it for now.
Thank you so much. So insightful, so much useful information, so insightful. I love that idea of just, you know, sitting down and thinking about what are your values, what do you love, what do you love to do, and then trying to find a job that fits that, and taking advantage of all the opportunities that you have. And some of them, maybe we don't even realize, like they're maybe not kind of a primary part of your program of studies, but they're skills that you're developing and that can become so important later on after you know, go out into the real world. So thank you so much to all of you. I have some, I wanted to ask you all, maybe not one by one, if anyone, just feel free to chime in. You know, I think you've all touched on it a little bit, but you know, the idea of what should graduate students be doing right now? You know, what did you do when you're still in graduate school, thinking about graduation, and then moving, you know, after graduation? What are some of the first things you all did? And you know, what should you have done? What do you know now that you wish you had known before graduating? And I'll just leave it open to.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll give you not a personal example, but more that I've been in contact with some people actually at FSU that approached me from the humanities department, you know, about to graduate, you know, and this person we've been talking, I've been trying to kind of not coaching her, but providing some tips. And one of the things, and she sent me the resume, right? So if you know someone and you just want like an opinion, you know, go and send the resume. And I kind of like provided feedback. And one of the things that I'm seeing that it's lacking, because I'm actually recruiting people, you know, from colleges and stuff like that, is that there is this tendency to say, oh, I know how to do that. I have that skill. But what we look for is, hey, why don't you go get a certification? It's free. Like there is a Facebook Blueprint certification, put it there. So to the point that Jessica was saying, it's competitive. There is a lot of competition. And for example, my company is already working with specific colleges to recruit, do internships. We hire everyone who does an internship with us. I know, and they're paid. So do that, because once you enter into that, you show your value and then it's done, right? And I feel that sometimes there is this tendency, oh, you know, I don't do it. They don't follow up on the tips that you're providing because they don't like to hear, you know, what you're saying, right? But I'm actually trying to help people understand how we think when we recruit. right? So there is that dream that you want to achieve and the reality. So I think definitely you guys need to get skills that are actually being used from, company. Like in my case, data analytics. Show me that you have some Google Analytics, do a certification, which are free actually. Show me like a report that you have done, and then creativity, come up with a portfolio. And the portfolio could be very visual, PowerPoint. Excel, the fact that if I can find someone who knows how to use Excel, I would hire that person. So I would say invest in those skills. Go and look at job description on LinkedIn, see what they're requiring, and then go get a certification.
And I will add here to that. So those of you who are thinking, so I have advice for students and faculty. Faculty, I would say, don't make them mini you. There are hardly positions for professorships out there that are tenure track. Let go of the mini me syndrome, I would say, and it will help your students also to not feel like they failed when they don't go to grad school, or they don't finish their master's, or they don't finish their PhD, or if they finish, they can't find a job. Because one of the things that I had to really struggle with, and I still do, it's still a grieving process, is letting go of that dream job idea, and in reality, I'm really working my dream job if I really step back and look at it. But for so long, I was like, no, I want to be a professor. And now I think, if I take a moment and I think, what am I doing now that a tenure track position would give me? And that nothing. It wouldn't pay me more than I'm making now. It wouldn't, I could still teach. I don't have the tenure track clock on my back. I can actually enjoy what I do on my time. And yes, it's a lot of work. But I would say that for the students, I would say, when I hire students, or staff even, I want to see evidence of creativity, evidence, not just like you say you're creative. I want to see it. What have you done in the past that shows me you are creative? What have you done in the past that you're thinking outside of the box? So for example, when I'm hiring for social media, when I hired back my old job, and I'm actually looking for in the future for a social media assistant, I'm looking at not just that you've used Facebook and social media and a business context, that's important too. But show me what you are creative at. And it could be outside of creativity. Just show me evidence of something. Are you a writer? Are you a painter? Are you looking at things with different eyes? That's kind of what I see. Are you resourceful, or do I have to train you on everything? Because I don't have time to train you on everything. I've done the work, and I don't want to do it for that person. You come in with the skills and show me what you can do. Show me that you can think in a different way. And I think having done a graduate program and a PhD program gives you that, because you have to look at a text in so many different ways. You have to read a book, and then read all the criticisms. So if you've done Renaissance literature, you have to read like 700, years of criticism. And then think about something new to come up with, or just that little bit that hasn't been studied yet. You don't have to be a master of literature, or like, you don't have to be this brilliant scholar. You just need a little bit just to make that contribution to be active. So those are the things. Network and have a curiosity to learn more. Sort of network with people. You never know where you're going to meet. Like some of you have said, yes, some of it has been effort and work, but some of it is also luck. And the luck comes with that effort and work and that networking. And, just like I was invited here today, I've kept in touch and network with some of you around for so many years. And you just never know. And I love doing this kind of thing because it allows me to reach back and say, yes, you are valued. Your degree is valued. I have no regrets doing a PhD in Italian studies or in Italian literature. And when I talk to faculty students, they say, well, are you even using that today? Oh, I use it every day, not just when I'm writing for research or teaching, but when I'm strategically thinking about how do I bring more students into my program? How do I increase revenue for my department? How do I hire the right faculty? I need those thinking skills, those looking at that text 360 to make a decision. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, could I add a little bit to that too? I think that's phenomenal what you just said, Janet, because that's so important to continue to reach out to people. And I didn't do that when I was younger as much as I know now, that I wish I had done. So I would even, it may sound very simplistic, but reach out to people who are in a position that you think you want, even a field you think you want to be in, to really understand what the daily life is like. Because I find that quite often in my field, that people who study abroad have a great time and they think that that's what working in international education is going to be like. And I see you laughing and I know you understand what I mean. Because it's not the same thing, and so you do need to reach out to people. And so I do the same. I love when alumni or undergrads reach out to me to just talk, and that's great. I'm happy to do it. And so I would encourage you to do the same and to, speak to as many people as you can. Give the advice that you can to people about your daily life and what the field is like. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a few minutes. I do want to make sure to give you all the opportunity to ask questions, especially our graduate students who are here. Any questions for any panelist in particular, or for all of them? Don't be shy. Or feel free to use the chat if you want to ask a question using the chat.
I do have something I'd like to add, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
One thing I've noticed that y'all have talked about developing skills and stuff, and I just wanted to piggyback off of that and maybe consider volunteer opportunities that allow you to do that. In the past, I've been able to work with different organizations. I'd like to shout out Società Italiana, where I was able to help a little bit, and kind of, we did the little Facebook page and things like that. So sometimes there may be other opportunities that you don't realize to help you develop those skills. Maybe there's an organization that may have nothing to do with what you're studying, but you just have a true interest in it in your heart. Reach out and see if, there's a way that you can offer your skills that can support them. And at the same time, it can build your repertoire of abilities, right? Whether that's, Excel, like Ginevra had said, or social media management, or any other kind of thing that you might be interested in. And then the second thing that I wish I had told myself back when I was a student was to actually believe in myself, because I did not, I wanted to be in politics. That was something that I used to want a very long time ago as an undergraduate student. Yes, imposter syndrome, exactly. And don't ignore that desire. I mean, you may feel like maybe you're not good enough, or you don't have the skills, or maybe you didn't quite get the traditional education for that. But there's something about that voice that I really encourage you to listen to. And I wish I had listened to it sooner, but it is what it is. And I'm incredibly thrilled to be doing what I'm doing. I can't imagine doing anything different. I love the work that I do, but maybe I could have spent more of my life doing it if I had listened.
So the question on the imposter syndrome, that's me, that's what I have, but I took it as an advantage. Because of that, I work harder, and then I'm so paranoid because I want to be the best, that actually it's an advantage. It has been an advantage.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Definitely. There are plenty of people through my life who told me, why on earth are you studying Italian? Why languages at all? What are you going to do with it? And lots of my friends and colleagues went through the same thing, but you've got to just fight through that and use that as motivation, and just say, this is something I love. That's why I want to do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to find a way to use it in my life, whatever that may be. don't give it up just because someone is trying to tell you it's not valuable. It sounds so simple to say do something you love, but truly you don't give those things up and then regret it later on in your life. You've got to keep it, in your heart. If that's what you want to do, follow it. You don't know where it's going to lead you. All of us have shown that we have kind of fallen into things in a strange way. People we've met or experiences we never thought we'd have, and that will happen to you. Just follow the path that you enjoy, and something will grow from that.
What are you guys what jobs are you looking for?
Hi, for me, I'm a first year graduate student, so I have another year to go. But yeah, for me, first of all, thank you all for sharing your stories. It was really inspiring. But for me, I really want to teach abroad. I've done it twice now. So I did an internship. Professor Valiza helped me with the site program, so I interned and I taught high school in Italy. And then I moved to Korea because I couldn't find a job in Italy or in the USA. And I knew nothing about Korea. So I was like, oh, this seems like a fun place to go to. So, it was really fun. I learned a lot about myself. Like, and Alyssa, I definitely connected with you, like your story and like what you've been doing. And I definitely understand, like, yeah, people that study abroad, like it's a very different experience than like actually living abroad and working abroad and like, like going to work every day and meeting, like local people. It's completely different. But yeah, the job that I want to do, I just want to teach abroad, move abroad. Like, I just want to like leave the USA behind because there's so much to learn that I just don't think the USA can give me, So I don't know. I guess my question for anybody is just how do you go abroad and stay there?
The communication department, the College of Communication, they used to do work with the Global Engagement Center, right? At FSU. And we used to teach a class to Korean students who were coming to go and work for Disney World, right? So they do a lot of interesting programs. And then there was another program, it was a grant trying to go and recruit students from Iraq. So I think sometimes think about even within FSU, like, because the more experience, diverse experience, then I think the more chance they're gonna have to get like even a teaching program abroad.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. I hadn't thought of that.
Any other questions for our panelists? Okay, well, thank you all so much. I think this was a great event. I know I for one learned a lot listening to your stories, listening to your advice. So I think this was really useful for our graduate students. Kathy, you recorded this session, so I'll be able to I'll forward you all the link. Thank you all for coming, and that's a wrap, I suppose.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was
Thank
really
you.
Grazie.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Kathy.